In this vast and often confusing world, there exists a quiet, ongoing battle, a battle between light and darkness, truth and deception. It's a spiritual war that most of us may not even realize we're part of, yet it affects every aspect of our lives. And in the middle of this battle, there are people, those marked and chosen, called for something greater, something beyond the ordinary life many of us live. These individuals have been set apart, not by coincidence, but by divine intention, carrying within them a purpose from the moment they were born. Here's the shocking reality. Most of the chosen ones have no idea about their purpose. They go through life battling struggles, facing victories, and feeling isolated, never fully understanding the divine plan that has been unfolding in the background. They may feel different, they may feel lost, but every challenge, every hardship, every moment of solitude is part of a greater story. A story that is uniquely theirs, one that connects them to something far greater than wealth, status, or material gain. You see, the world tells us that success is measured by how much money we have, what possessions we own, and how much power we wield. But the truth is, God's definition of success is so much greater. It's not about what we own, but about the legacy we leave behind, the lives we impact, and the divine calling we fulfill. And if you're watching this, I want you to stop and think, maybe, just maybe, you are one of the chosen. If you have ever felt different, if you've ever sensed that there's more to your life than what the world can see, pay attention. The signs have been there all along, and it's time to recognize them. Before we continue, I want to invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications. The truths I'm about to share could change your perspective on everything. Trust me, this is not just another video. This is the beginning of a deeper understanding of your divine purpose. And right now, I encourage you to make a declaration over your life. Drop a comment below saying, "I trust that God will give me victory to overcome every obstacle." When you declare these words, you align yourself with the promises of God, and together, we're going to walk into this truth. Now, let's dive deeper. I promise you, what's coming next will shift the way you see your purpose and destiny. In the journey of life, one of the most profound and powerful truths we can grasp is that God's purpose for each of us was set in motion long before we even took our first breath. In Jeremiah 1:5, God speaks a message that transcends time. "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This isn't just a historical truth for a prophet, it's a divine principle that applies to all of us. God's purpose for your life was not an afterthought. It was intricately planned before you even existed. This is not just comforting knowledge, it's empowering. It means that your life has meaning from the very moment of conception, and that every step you take, even the ones that seem confusing or difficult, are part of a much grander story. Consider the life of Moses. His birth came at a time of great peril for the Hebrew people. Pharaoh had issued a decree to kill all Hebrew male children, yet Moses' life was spared. He was placed in a basket and sent down the river, only to be rescued and raised in the very palace of the man who sought his death. From the very moment of his birth, Moses was set apart. God's divine plan for him was unfolding, despite the danger, despite the oppression. Moses' life wasn't just about surviving. It was about fulfilling a purpose far beyond what he could have understood as a child. He was chosen, not just to live, but to lead God's people out of slavery and into freedom. Reflect on this for a moment. Moses didn't know the full extent of his purpose when he was placed in that basket, but God was with him every step of the way, preparing him for greatness. And perhaps in your own life, there have been moments where you sensed a greater purpose, a pull towards something deeper, even if you couldn't fully understand it at the time. Maybe you faced adversity or felt like you didn't fit the mold of the world around you. But those very experiences might be part of God's preparation for the greatness He has planned for you. Ask yourself this: have you ever experienced moments where you felt God's hand guiding you, even before you recognized it? Think about the challenges you've faced or the desires that have been placed in your heart. Perhaps you've struggled with a sense of longing for something more, something beyond what the world defines as success. That might be God calling you to step into the purpose He's had for you all along. Take a moment and reflect. Share your thoughts in the comments below and declare with conviction, I am chosen for a purpose greater than what I see. This is the moment to start recognizing the divine plan that has been unfolding in your life, even before you were aware of it. The more we acknowledge God's guidance, the more we align ourselves with the extraordinary purpose He has set before us. As we continue, know that understanding this truth will not only open your eyes to the signs in your life, but will also lead you closer to fulfilling your own divine calling. Stay with me, because this journey is just beginning. Every step is part of the greater plan God has for you. And together, we are about to uncover more about the purpose that has been written for your life from the very start. Childhood is one of the purest stages of our lives, a time when we are closest to the essence of who we truly are before the world begins to shape and mold us. It's during these early years that God often begins revealing the divine calling placed on our lives. Yet, so many of us overlook these signs, dismissing them as mere childhood imagination or fleeting moments of innocence. The world often teaches us to value what is tangible, wealth, success, and material accomplishments, but it fails to recognize that the true wealth, the real purpose, is planted deep within us from a young age. In the Bible, we see clear examples of this early divine calling. Take Joseph, for instance. As a young boy, Joseph had dreams, visions of his future greatness. He saw himself in a position of leadership, and his brothers would bow before him. These dreams were not just fanciful thoughts, they were divine revelations of his destiny. However, rather than being celebrated, Joseph was rejected. His brothers despised him, and his own father questioned the meaning of his dreams. Yet, despite the rejection and the hardships he faced, those early signs of his calling were undeniable. His journey was not easy, but God was preparing him for a future where he would rise to greatness, eventually saving his family and an entire nation. Joseph's story is a powerful reminder that the signs of divine purpose often come early, but they aren't always recognized by those around us, nor are they always embraced by ourselves. The world may not understand these signs, and often we ourselves struggle to see the deeper meaning behind the challenges we face. But just like Joseph, every moment of rejection, every trial, and every difficulty can be a part of God's divine preparation for something far greater. Now, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Did you ever sense something different about yourself in your childhood? Were there moments when you felt that you were meant for something more than the material world around you? Perhaps you were drawn to spiritual matters when others were focused on worldly pursuits. Maybe you felt a longing to help others, or you experienced dreams or visions that you didn't fully understand, but knew deep down had a purpose. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Declare with confidence, I am marked for a divine purpose, and my journey has meaning. Reflecting on these moments can be transformative, because recognizing the signs from our childhood is the first step in aligning ourselves with the greater calling God has for our lives. As we continue this journey, keep your heart open. The more we understand the signs from our past, the more we realize how they have shaped us for the future God has planned. Stay with me as we dive deeper into how these signs are connected to the greater purpose God has for you, and how you can step into that purpose with confidence and clarity. From the very beginning, those chosen by God often face challenges and resistance, obstacles that seem to come from nowhere and are harder to understand as they arise. These battles, however, are not a random part of life. There's a deeper spiritual force at play. The enemy knows the potential within those marked for greatness long before they even realize it themselves. And so, the opposition begins before they can fully recognize their divine calling. This resistance doesn't come just when you're on the verge of success or after you've grown into your purpose. No, it often starts in early childhood, in the form of rejection, misunderstanding, or hardship. These struggles can leave deep marks, making us question ourselves and our worth. But the truth is, these challenges are not a reflection of our failure. They are a sign that we are being prepared for something great. The enemy attacks what he fears, and the enemy fears the light within those who are destined to bring God's will to earth. Biblical stories powerfully illustrate this truth. Take Moses, for example. Before Moses could lead the Israelites out of slavery, he was placed in a basket, cast into the river, and then raised in Pharaoh's palace. Pharaoh, the very king who wanted to destroy him, was unknowingly part of the plan God had for Moses. But even as a child, Moses faced opposition. The world tried to suppress the light within him before he even knew the magnitude of his calling. Yet, despite these obstacles, Moses became a leader, and he eventually delivered his people from bondage. Similarly, Jesus too faced immediate opposition. Before he could speak his first words of ministry, King Herod had already ordered the massacre of innocent children, trying to eliminate the light before it could grow. Darkness always fights against light, and the enemy attempts to destroy potential before it can fulfill its purpose. These stories illustrate a crucial point. Those chosen by God are marked for greatness. But their journey is not without resistance. It's not just about reaching success, but about overcoming the obstacles that try to stand in your way. Challenges that may seem disproportionate compared to the struggles others face. The enemy knows the potential of those set apart, and he will do whatever it takes to prevent them from stepping into their purpose. Have you ever experienced opposition or rejection that seemed far greater than what others around you faced? Maybe you felt like your battles were unfair, as if you were being tested at every turn. These struggles, though painful, are a sign that you are destined for something greater. The enemy tries to discourage you because he fears the light that you carry. Reflect on those moments and recognize them for what they truly are, a sign of your divine calling. In the comments below, declare with confidence, "I am chosen, and nothing will stand in the way of my purpose." Recognizing the opposition for what it truly is helps you reclaim your power and align with God's greater plan for your life. As we move forward, remember that these struggles are not meant to break you. They are meant to shape you. And when you understand that, you can step forward with strength, knowing that nothing can stop what God has already set in motion. Stay with me, because understanding the role of opposition in your life will lead to a deeper understanding of your purpose and how to rise above it. In a world that constantly measures success by material wealth and status, it's easy to get distracted. Society often tells us that happiness is found in possessions, luxury, and financial security. However, the truth is far deeper and far more fulfilling than any earthly success can offer. The power of living out your purpose in God's plan far outweighs the fleeting satisfaction of material wealth. When you walk in God's purpose for your life, you begin to realize that true fulfillment isn't found in what you own or achieve. It's found in the lives you touch, the impact you make, and the divine calling you fulfill. The world will tell you that wealth is the ultimate goal, but the chosen ones know better. They understand that their true purpose cannot be defined by the standards of this world. Consider the lives of Joseph and David, two men who faced great trials and rejection before they stepped into their destiny. Joseph, as a young boy, was sold into slavery by his brothers, thrown into prison, and yet through it all he trusted in God's plan. His life didn't make sense to anyone at the time, but God was preparing him for greatness. Eventually, Joseph rose to a position of great power in Egypt, saving not only his family, but an entire nation. David, too, faced countless challenges before he became king. Anointed as a young shepherd boy, he faced years of running from King Saul, rejection, and loneliness. Yet despite the hardships, David stayed faithful to God. His journey was full of struggles, but each step led him closer to his divine calling. His story is a reminder that God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. These stories highlight something incredibly important. God's purpose for your life is more powerful than any material success. It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of wealth and success, but as the chosen ones know, true purpose is the source of lasting joy and fulfillment. Have you ever found yourself focusing on wealth, thinking it would bring you happiness, only to feel unfulfilled? Or have you realized that your true calling lies beyond the temporary things this world offers? Maybe you've faced obstacles and setbacks, but through those struggles, God has been shaping you for a purpose much greater than anything material. Take a moment to reflect and think about your own life. In the comments, declare, "I am choosing purpose over wealth, and I trust that God's plan for my life is greater than any material success." By embracing your purpose, you align with a deeper, more lasting fulfillment that transcends any worldly pursuit. Now, as we continue on this journey, stay tuned, because the deeper we go into understanding our purpose, the more we uncover about how God's plan has been at work in our lives all along. Let's continue walking together, knowing that the true riches of life come from walking in His will, not in the pursuit of worldly gain. In life, it can often feel as if the weight of the world is against us. We face challenges, setbacks, and obstacles that seem to come out of nowhere, leaving us questioning why things are so difficult. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that these struggles are a sign of failure, or that we are somehow unworthy. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if these struggles are not here to break us, but to refine us, to shape us for a greater purpose? In God's kingdom, what the world sees as a setback is often a setup for a divine calling. Every trial, every hardship, every rejection is part of God's refining process. It's through these challenges that we are molded and prepared for the greatness that lies ahead. The story of Joseph is a perfect example of this. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. But through all of this, God was preparing Joseph for his role as a leader in Egypt, where he would ultimately save his family and an entire nation from famine. David, too, faced immense trials. Before he became king, he was a young shepherd, rejected by his own family and hunted by King Saul. He spent years in the wilderness, fighting battles and enduring hardships. But each trial strengthened his faith, honed his courage, and prepared him for the weight of the throne. God did not take him straight from the shepherd's field to the palace. He allowed David to face struggles so that David would be ready for the responsibility of leading a nation. This refining process is not easy, but it is necessary. The chosen ones are not immune to struggle. In fact, they are often called to endure the greatest hardships because God is preparing them for greatness. We may not always understand why things happen the way they do, but we can trust that God's hand is at work, shaping us, refining us, and preparing us for what lies ahead. Now, take a moment to reflect on your own life. How have the struggles you've faced shaped you? Have they made you stronger, more resilient, more faithful? Have you been able to see the bigger picture, the purpose behind the pain? If you've ever felt like your struggles were leading you somewhere greater, share that in the comments below and declare, "My struggles are shaping me for greatness." These struggles are not in vain. They are part of the process that will one day lead you to fulfill your divine purpose. As we continue this journey, remember, the refining process is not a punishment, but a preparation for the incredible future God has in store for you. As we move forward, stay with me, because the more we embrace this truth, the clearer it becomes that every hardship is just another step toward the incredible destiny God has planned for us. Let's walk through this together, trusting that God is shaping us for a future of purpose and impact. We all have something unique that sets us apart. Something inside of us that, when tapped into, has the power to change lives, to inspire, and to fulfill a purpose greater than ourselves. The truth is, the gifts that we have been given are not random. They are intricately designed by God to align with the divine purpose He has set for each of us. Whether it's a gift of wisdom, compassion, leadership, creativity, or something else, these talents are not here for us to use solely for personal gain or fleeting success. True fulfillment comes when we recognize these gifts and use them to bring glory to God and to serve others. Society often teaches us to chase after wealth, fame, or status. We're told to make the most of our abilities for ourselves, to secure our own success. But God's plan is different. He gives us these gifts to build His kingdom, to serve those around us, and to fulfill the divine calling He has placed on our lives. When we use our gifts selfishly or outside of God's purpose, we may experience temporary success, but we will never find true peace or fulfillment. On the other hand, when we align our gifts with God's will, we unlock a purpose that transcends anything the world can offer. Consider the story of Samuel, who as a young child heard God's voice calling him in the temple. His ability to listen and respond to God's voice was a gift that would later guide him to become a great prophet leading the nation of Israel. Then there's Solomon, a man who was gifted with wisdom beyond measure. When God offered him anything he wanted, Solomon chose wisdom. And through that gift, he became one of the greatest rulers in history. And of course, David, a young shepherd boy who had the courage to face a giant, not because of his own strength, but because of the courage God placed in his heart. David's courage wasn't just for the battlefield, it was a gift that would shape him into a leader of a nation. These examples remind us that our gifts are not just for our benefit, they are for a higher purpose. God has a plan for each of us, and the gifts we possess are the tools He has provided to fulfill that plan. But how often do we ignore or misuse these gifts, chasing after success that ultimately leaves us empty? How often do we let society's standards shape how we view our worth and purpose? Now take a moment to reflect. What gifts have you been given? Have you recognized them for what they truly are? Divine gifts meant for a higher purpose? How are you using those gifts to fulfill your calling? Are you serving others, using your talents for good, or are you still searching for fulfillment in the wrong places? If you recognize the gifts God has given you and are ready to use them to serve His purpose, share this in the comments. I will use my gifts to fulfill my divine calling. By doing so, you are making a declaration of your intent to align your talents with the purpose God has for you. As we continue this journey, let's remember that our gifts are not just about us. They are a part of something much bigger. And as we move forward, embracing and using these gifts for God's glory, we will see how our lives can make a lasting impact. Stay with me, because as we dive deeper into this, we'll discover how God's purpose continues to unfold through us when we step into His calling fully. Every person who has been chosen by God reaches a defining moment in their life, a moment where they are faced with a choice that will determine the trajectory of their purpose. It's a moment where the call of God is so clear, so undeniable, that the only question left is, will you answer? Will you step into the calling He has placed on your life, or will you choose to ignore it and remain in the safety of the familiar? God will never force you to follow your calling. He is a God who honors free will. But He does not leave you without signs, without opportunities to recognize the purpose He has laid out for you. These signs often come when you are at a crossroads, when you are living comfortably in your own plans and preferences, yet there is something deep inside that stirs you towards something greater. You might feel unsettled, uncomfortable, or even scared at the thought of stepping into something unfamiliar. But it is in these moments of discomfort that God's voice becomes clearer, urging you to step into your destiny. We see this throughout the Bible in the stories of Moses and Esther. Moses, raised in the luxury of Pharaoh's palace, lived a life of privilege. But when God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, he had to choose between his comfortable life and embracing the divine purpose set before him. It wasn't an easy choice, and Moses initially hesitated. Yet he knew deep down that he was made for something much greater than personal comfort. Similarly, Esther, a queen in a foreign land, was given the opportunity to save her people from destruction. At first, she hesitated, unsure of whether she should risk everything for a cause that seemed so distant from her own safety. But when the time came, she answered the call, stepping forward with courage to fulfill the purpose that God had prepared for her all along. These moments in the Bible show us the weight and the importance of answering God's call, even when everything seems to be going well in our lives. Both Moses and Esther had to leave behind their comfort zones and step into roles they never imagined they would play. They had to make the choice to embrace God's plan, no matter the cost, because they understood that it was their destiny to do so. Now, I want you to reflect on your own life. Have you ever felt a stirring in your heart, a call that you tried to ignore? Maybe it was a nudge to make a change, to step into something new, or to take a risk for a greater purpose. Have you been avoiding the call because of fear, comfort, or uncertainty? And now, with everything you've heard today, are you finally ready to step into that calling? In the comments, share this declaration. I am ready to answer the call and step into my purpose. By doing so, you are making a powerful statement, not just to the world, but to yourself, acknowledging that you are no longer afraid to embrace the life God has prepared for you. As we move forward, know that this is not a one-time decision. Answering the call is a daily choice, a continual commitment to living out your purpose. And just like Moses and Esther, your decision to step into God's calling will not only change your life, but it will also affect the lives of many others. Stay with me, because as we go deeper, we will uncover even more about how answering the call shapes your destiny and equips you for the life God has always planned for you. There comes a pivotal moment in everyone's life when we are called to choose between remaining in the safety of what we know and stepping out into something much greater. The fear of discomfort or losing what we have often holds people back from answering their calling. But let me tell you this, God's calling is not about pushing you into uncertainty without a purpose. It's about aligning everything in your life with His divine plan. Yes, stepping into the unknown may seem daunting, but it's in those very moments that God works His greatest miracles. The moment you let go of control and trust in God's direction, He will begin to align everything around you, preparing you for the incredible purpose He has for your life. God has been preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. Your struggles, your challenges, your dreams, everything you've encountered so far has been part of your preparation. It's time to embrace the divine calling on your life. The world may offer distractions, wealth, and comfort, but none of these can provide the lasting fulfillment that comes from walking in your true purpose. True fulfillment doesn't come from possessions or status. It comes from knowing you are living in alignment with God's will. Right now, I want to remind you that your purpose is greater than any struggle you've faced. The world may try to make you feel small, to tell you that you don't matter, but I am here to tell you that you were born for greatness. You have been called for such a time as this. God is waiting for you to step into the fullness of what He has planned for you. Take a moment and pray with me. Heavenly Father, I thank You for calling me for something greater. I trust that You have a purpose for my life that is far beyond what I can see. Please give me the courage to step out in faith, to embrace the unknown with trust in Your plan. Help me to rise above my fears and embrace the path You have set before me. I thank You for the strength to walk in Your calling, and I give You all the glory for the journey ahead. Amen. Now, I encourage you to make a declaration of faith. I am chosen. I am walking into my divine purpose. Nothing can stop what God has destined for me. If you feel this message has spoken to you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel so you can receive more powerful revelations, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. By sharing, you're spreading the light of God's truth and encouraging others to walk into their own divine purpose. Let's continue this journey together. Know that you are chosen. Your struggles were not in vain. Step forward in faith and embrace the destiny that God has been preparing you for. God is with you every step of the way.